Hi, this is a little bit of a tutorial here for you with regards to evaluating explanations of mental illness. This is for component 3 of the OCR Psychology A-level exam. Okay, so here's the question here. Discuss the extent to which explanations of mental illness are deterministic. Okay, so the way we approach this, I guess you could get away with, would you get away with 2 peckers here if it's a 10 marker? Maybe, maybe. Well, definitely 3 pecks. Okay, so this is about determinism. So let's just break this down then. So discuss, if you remember, means to evaluate. Okay, we're going to evaluate via, whenever we're evaluating, we need to link APMIDs, don't we? More of that in a moment. We need to evaluate the extent, so every single one of our points needs to have either to a greater extent or lesser extent. And obviously our context here is going to be explanations of mental illness. Just be really careful here, we're not asking for views of mental illness and none of those historical views. We want explanations, you know, so you're talking about cognitive, biological, that medical model, that sort of thing. And our key term here, the thing that we're doing all this evaluation with regards to, is determinism. Okay, so essentially, if we break it down, what we're saying, are deterministic explanations of mental illness good or not? Is what we're doing there. So in order to do that, we need to first of all identify whether mental health explanations are deterministic to a large extent or to a lesser extent. Now, you can't just simply say that by saying that they are. You have to say why. You know, so identify why it is that a mental health condition or the mental health explanations are. So you'll notice down below, I've got the biological one going on. I'll return to that in a moment just to show you exactly what I mean by that. Then what we need to do is explain why they are deterministic or not. So what makes them deterministic? Yeah. And then the most important part of the whole of that point, okay, a link, I suppose you could call this, say whether this is a good thing or a bad thing by linking an APMID to it. So remember, APMIDs are areas, perspectives, methods, issues, and debates. In this particular case, I would be really looking at issues and debates, because issues and debates tend to be evaluative, don't they? They tend to tell you whether something is good or not, right? So I've split this up a little bit for you. We always start off, don't we, by talking about what the debate, what the key term in this particular case is actually about. So determinism, we just give a quick definition of it there. So that should be pretty straightforward. It's going to be worth a marker, so I should imagine. Let's go on to the point then. So we're going to start off with biological explanations. So it's asked you about mental health explanations. Well, one of the mental health explanations is biological, the medical model. Whichever way you want to talk about it, it amounts to the same thing. So biological explanations of mental illness are deterministic to a large extent because they often explain how mental illness is caused by biological processes or structures over which we have no control. Now, can you see that? That is identifying an explanation for mental illness. It's mentioned the fact that they are deterministic to a large extent, and it's said why. It hasn't just said they are, you know, it's said why, right? And now what we need to do, this bit here, I would say, is probably the most important part of the whole of this pecker, because it's the bit where it allows us to evaluate. If we don't get this bit right, then we're snookered, really. Okay. It ignores other factors which may influence mental illness development, which is reductionist and may lack validity. Right. So, what are we saying? Yes, mental health explanations are mental illness are deterministic, and we've explained why. We've identified that. But now we need to say whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. We're saying no, it's not a good thing, because deterministic explanations tend to ignore other factors apart from internal or external factors, whatever they're claiming for the cause of mental illness. And if they are therefore reductionist, they may lack validity. Okay, see how we've linked an APMID to it. That, like I say, is probably the most important bit. We have to get that bit right. Okay, so we're going to link a little example here. I've gone a bit too far. Here we go. So, for example, the biochemical explanation of mental illness. Okay, it's one of the many biological ones, isn't it? Explains that low levels of monoamine neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, noradrenaline, can lead to depression, or high levels can lead to schizophrenia. Then we just simply say, well, what's deterministic about that? It's deterministic because it explains how it is the levels of neurotransmitters in the brain which causes the mental illness. So you've got to have that word cause in there, haven't you, to make it into determinism. So can we see how that example then is linking back to the idea of determinism? Okay, right, the last little bit here, you can see I've annotated these up. These are in your booklet, aren't they? This is a weakness. I always start off my comments with this is a weakness, so this is a strength, because I think it tells the examiner that you're making a comment at that point about the extent or whatever of the determinism here. This is a weakness of deterministic explanation of mental illness, as they ignore free will, and oversimplify the explanation of mental illness. Now, can you see there? That's good, isn't it? Because we've got the kind of the opposite of determinism coming in. So it ignores free will. It oversimplifies explanation of mental illness. Can we see oversimplification links to reductionism that we mentioned before? How is it doing that? It ignores other factors which may contribute to the development of mental illness, such as upbringing, etc., which reduces accuracy of the explanation. Accuracy links to validity. You can see how everything flows, everything's linked together. So effectively what we're saying is that deterministic explanations of mental illness, such as the biological one, are problematic because they oversimplify, they are reductionist in their very nature, and by being reductionist, they lack validity. Okay, so that's that's one example there. You can see you've got another example in your booklet. I'll just show you the Nearpod that goes with this, because you're going to be expected to have a go at that. Does it go? I can't do that. There it is. Okay, so this one here, discuss mental illness in relation to the individual situational explanations of debate, just slightly different to the determinism one. You're going to have some examples here which are individual. So you're going to have to say that there are individual explanations for mental illness, and then you're going to have to say that there are situational explanations for mental illness. And I guess if you're going to go for a third one, it'll be something that is a combination of the two. It's a pretty easy question, really. It's very, very similar to the determinism one. Exactly the same sort of idea again. Just simply a case of identify when you have an individual explanation, identify when you have a situational. I'll be talking situational is probably more likely to be the non-medical approaches, aren't they? Individuals more likely to be your medical model ones. So identify it first of all, and then simply say whether it's a good or a bad thing by linking the APMIDs. Individual could link with determinism, couldn't it? Could link with reductionism, could link to socially sensitive research. You can absolutely go crazy on that one. Okay then, so have a go at that. Get your answers down. It's a 10-mark question. It's a really, really good bit of revision for you. And hopefully your teachers will be able to get a little look at that as well. Okay, but as I say here, this bit here is your link to the actual question from a past paper. Okay, so you can see what it was that the exam board thought was a good answer there as well. Okay, bye for now.